Welcome to the second season of Checking In with Dr. B, conversations with those who have found and live their joy. This season, we'll be looking at those who have taken their creative talents to other spheres as well. And with me today is Gerard Boucaud. Now, Gerard is a musician, but in addition to that, oh my goodness, he has so very many talents. He is, and I have to read here because it's a lot. He's a realtor. He's a certified internal auditor, certified information systems auditor, and a certified data privacy solutions engineer. And in addition to that, he's an avid traveler. Welcome, Gerard.
Thank you, Dawn.
Now, it seems so weird to hear you say dawn, um, but I guess we'll go with it. We'll go with it.
Well, I mean, our relationship has so many levels. I'm trying to find the right one for this interview, from Miss Batson, to Dr. B, to Dr. Batson. It's complicated.
So, Gerard, tell us a bit about your journey. Your journey. What brought you to this point?
Well, I think the easiest response to that would be all the decisions that I've made led me to this particular point. And I think the driving force behind those decisions have been in trying to build a life that I find fulfilling. Part of it was running away from things, and then part of it is running towards things. And I think my journey started a long, long time ago, with my parents kind of inspiring me and getting me started with music. My dad is a musician. As part of one of the things that he did when he was growing up, and my mom loves music as well, and always singing around the house, and that kind of was instilled a kind of love for that. But then, even while I was getting involved in that, I was always involved in other things as well, Cub Scouts or whatever. So my entire life has really been one of being filled with activity and filled with pursuing interests. And I don't think that has changed at all.
Hmm. You started off by saying running away from and running to. I'm
Mhm.
appreciating. What, say a little bit more about that.
So I guess in my life, there are things that I've always wanted to attain, right? I wanted to obviously have a good life. You wanted, as you're growing up, you're told, hey, go to school, study hard, get a job, and then you live a wonderful life. And so part of my journey was kind of reaching for that goal, trying to find a way forward to meeting that goal. Those goals have changed, or the methods used have changed around time. But in terms of thinking forward, thinking long term about building a life that you find worth living, that's what I was kind of running towards. There are things that I was running away from. Most of those things were you couldn't really run away from. They kind of were internal to you, and they were the things that brought you unhappiness, or things that made you feel less than worthy sometimes. And so I will always try to run away from those feelings by getting into keeping myself busy, and so that I won't have to focus on those things. But eventually you have to deal with those. And so in terms of running away from those things and then running towards things that you actually want, are the two kind of forces that kind of propel you to make changes.
Hmm. Now, here we speak about, at least I speak about joy. And the thing
Hmm.
about joy is that it isn't every day you're going skipping through the fields, la da 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 da. Not, but what do you use to bring that joy, even in the moments that are darkest, perhaps?
So I think the first thing is understanding yourself, right? I think that's where you always need to start, and to try to figure out what makes you happy. And many people struggle with just knowing that. They want to be happy, or they want to achieve joy. But what does that mean for you as an individual? Or what I had to discover what that meant for me as an individual. Um, uh, Generally speaking, I tend to run sort of melancholy, at least in my early years. And so I understood that. And so one of the things that I did was develop strategies to cope with that and to kind of point me in a different direction towards happiness and joy, the things that makes me happy. And so when you identify, or the first thing I think you do after you know yourself is identify, hey, what are those things that make you happy? What are those things that you enjoy doing? Who do you enjoy being around? What kind of try to define what that means for you? And once you kind of have those types of definitions, then you work towards it. So for me specifically, I enjoy teaching, for example. I enjoy working with people and helping them to learn something that they didn't know before. I enjoy that light in the eyes when they get understanding, and it makes me happy at their success, right? So that's one of the things that I said, hey, so in my life, I pursue that in every form. So whether in my regular 9-to-5 job, training employees that get newly hired or whatever, I kind of build that into my responsibilities so that I can have that at work. And then obviously outside of that into music, I still do that to this day, even though I'm quite busy with other things. I still take time to teach because it brings me joy and fulfillment. Travel is something that I use sort of like a goalpost, right? So for me, my life could be pretty busy and it could be pretty stressful. But if I know that, hey, I have a trip coming up in a few months, right, and I can make it until that time, it gives me something to look forward to, and a goalpost, a milestone to reach, to get from this period where I'm at now to that period over there. And it helps me quite a bit having that to look forward to, because it means I can deal with this today because tomorrow I'm going to be on the beach somewhere in some strange place.
That's one of the things that I love about your life. You're always all over the world. It's like, where's Gerard today? In your travels, can you say one of the things or one of the places that has really impacted you?
Well, there've been several, and for different reasons. I think one of the most amazing things that I've experienced was I went to Iceland, and we went out there. It was cold and dark. We were going to see the Northern Lights, and the bus takes you out into the middle of nowhere, and it's pitch black and it's freezing cold, which as a Caribbean person we don't really enjoy. But you're out there and you're waiting for something to happen, and then every now and then somebody said, "Ooh, there's a glow over there." So everybody runs across and turns in that direction, points their cameras, looking at that particular glow, and there's a little slight sheen, and then it disappears or what have you. And then you wait for a little while longer, freezing, and then somebody says, "Hey, there's a glow over there," and then you go and you turn in that direction and you run across there to see it. And I think I was just about to give up and go in the bus and call it a night when like the whole sky like lit up, and there's all these waves and different colors and things of that nature. And it kind of it humbles you in a bit, because you kind of put you in your place and say, hey, this is where you are in relation to all of this that's remarkable. But it kind of gives you a sense of wonder about the world and about science and nature and things of that nature, that kind of changes your perspectives on things and makes you realize what's important. So I think that was a special moment. There's lots of others. Travel is it's like it's going to university about the world. It's seeing different people in different places and different cultures with different foods and how they adapt. And then you realize, hey, generally speaking, most people want the exact same thing. They all want to live productive lives. They want to be happy. They want to raise their families. They want to be in love. They want to have fun. It's the same everywhere we go. Now, how they do that might be slightly different, but it really gives you a sense of place, right? At least for me, and it makes you more accepting of everyone and different perspectives and things of that nature.
So, in your music, right, how have you spoke a little bit about how you've used your teaching to help you in the workplace as well. By the way, let me go on to a tangent now. Exactly what is a systems auditor? Yeah, what's that?
So well, it's not really technical at all, actually. So information systems auditor will be someone who comes into your workplace, looks at your processes, seeing, hey, what things are you doing manually, right? And then what things are you using a computer system to do, and tries to understand that process. And then if you want that process to be secure and efficient or what have you, we look at, hey, how are you running this process? What are the controls in place to ensure that it's accurate and it's efficient and things of that nature? And then we make recommendations. So it's sort of like looking at a whole system, like a whole process, breaking it into its components, but you never lose sight of how it fits into the whole. And then once you understand that, then you can make recommendations and decisions to help your clients kind of do it much better and much more safely, sometimes much more cost efficiently, things of that nature.
And how does music come into that? How did music, being in music, lead you to that an auxiliary? How,
That is a long story, and I have to go I have to go way, way back. And this story kind of involves you, so so don't be surprised. So after I finished, I was involved in music in from an early age, and then also in Trinity. I was part of the Trinity College Steelpan Ensemble, which you ran. And after I finished that, I got a regular job and I'm living life. And I decided, hey, I want to go to college, and I went to study, music. And through a lot of interesting twists and turns, I ended up at Flood Memorial where you were teaching, and I was studying music. At that time, the school didn't really recognize many of the certificates that I already had in music, and so they kind of started from scratch. And you have to do basic music theory and things of that nature, which was quite boring to me at the time. And you were my advisor, and you asked me, Gerard, what else are you interested in? Right. And that took me a minute to think about it. Well, I'm old enough not to have used computers as a kid, but in my prior job, there was one computer in my department that I was determined to learn how to use, and I learned how to use it. And so I was really interested in getting to know more about it. And so she said, and you suggested, hey, why don't you do some computer classes as well as doing this sort of stuff? And I said, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll do that. And so I signed up for some computer classes while I was doing my music classes because, to keep me mentally interested. And I got into it, and then I did class after class, and then I had enough for a minor, and then I did a few more classes, and then all of a sudden I had another major in management information systems. So by the time I graduated, I had enough credits for 2 degrees, one in music and in one in management information systems. And so those two things have always been two areas of interest that I've pursued consistently. So that's how I ended up with an IT degree and a music degree at the same time. And that's why in most of my, that's why I have these multiple interests that continue, they flow along with each other because they go along with those roles of interest.
so how do you balance? How do you balance the things in life?
Well, that's a constant, it requires a constant adjustment. So balance is a very important thing, and is a very important concept for me, generally speaking. I look for balance everywhere. No, achieving balance is not easy because you have multiple boxes and you're trying to juggle those things. But they serve two different purposes for me, and that's how I've been able to balance them. So the IT piece is how I make a living. It's how I pay my bills. It mentally stimulates me to understand processes and systems and things of that nature. And I do audit more than IT now, but that's where I started off. And so it gives me mental stimulation, and it makes me intellectually and academically interested in that topic. Music is a kind of passion of mine. It's something that I really enjoy. My soul enjoys it. My heart enjoys it. And I like creating it. I like teaching it. I like experiencing it also. And so having my mind stimulated as well as my passions and my heart stimulated make me a better person. It kind of fulfills me and kind of rounds me out and balances the two sides of me, I think. The mental academic crazy side and the creative crazy side kind of balance each other out, and then I'm normal.
I like that. Then you're normal because the balance is there now.
Right.
If looking at your life, if there were there was one thing that you wanted to teach someone in terms of Okay, this is your journey, your own journey, but what I've found is that this has helped me. What would you say to someone?
Hmm. Uh, you know, I think, the first thing, and I think the most important thing is learning about yourself. And accepting who you are, and realizing that who you are is not going to be the same all the time, right? It's not going to be the same. You change over time, right? But I think a lot of what I used to do kind of made me unhappy. So uh I have the ability to um I guess adapt myself to people. And so I get along with everyone. Most people that I interact with, I can get along with everyone. And because I'm saying, hey, this is what this person needs, I kind of try to be emotionally intelligent, and then you try to share that part of yourself with that individual, and so on and so forth. But then they never really get to know all of you, because there's some parts of you you never share, right? And at times that can make you unhappy, because it's exhausting, trying to make people happy and trying to accommodate yourself to other people. And so once you start focusing on yourself and saying, hey, this is who I am as a person, and yes, I can make adjustments for people, but at the end of the day, this is who you are. And then, and once you accept that and you present that, then not everybody's going to like you, but you are going to be a happier person, because you are now true to who you are internally, and you're living that, which is the easiest thing to be, if that makes sense.
Being true to yourself and to
Yes.
who you are. Oh, I like that because I know in your college days your nickname was Father, and you're always taking care of everybody else. But what you're saying is that you have to start with yourself first.
Yes, you do. You do. There's somebody said, and I can't remember who, but I can't take credit for it. Said that you cannot give to someone from your cup, right? If you have a cup, think of the metaphor of a cup. If you can't give to someone when your cup is empty, right? You also have to be fulfilled as an individual, and then you can share yourself with other people. And so if you fill your cup and your cup is overflowing, well, great, you can share a lot, right? And then, but if you're still trying to fill your cup, trying to pour your what you have in your cup into someone else's cup, it's like a never-ending cycle. So you really do have to take care of yourself, and you really do have to focus on your peace and your happiness before you could really and truly help yourself. So those days were great. I will never change them. They were fun. And that nickname still sticks. I was in Trinidad the other day, and Father, walking on the street. My goodness, all these years later. But yeah, but yeah, learning how to balance those two things out, what you do for yourself and what you receive, and then what you give, that finding that balance is also really important.
Okay, so now let's take a tack to being a realtor.
Mm.
Have the balance there with IT and with music. How
Wow.
does real estate come into that?
So so that was another interest of mine, and I kind of fell into it by not by accident, but not intentionally. So what happened was, I was thinking one day, oh, I'm getting old. And I'm tired of working. I want to retire, and I'm thinking about ways to do that. And I've always been interested in learning about real estate, and I've been reading about it and things of that nature. And I said, hey, why don't I just rent out my condo and buy another place, right? Because I was living in a condo at the time. So I say, that's a good idea, because I have, some investments and stuff like that, and some stuff working towards retirement, but I don't have anything real. Like, I don't have any real assets per se, except, this particular house. So let me do that. So I decided that I was going to do it. And so I rented out my place, and then I didn't have a place to live. So 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 then I kind of squatted in a room with my one of my good friends, one of my other godchildren, for a year or so, while I was saving money to buy another spot. And then, as I was managing my property and learning about how to do that and what I needed to do, somebody else said, hey, yeah, I have a property and I'm moving for work somewhere else. Do you mind managing mine also? And I said, oh, why not? So I started doing that as well. So I managed my property and I was managing that other person's property. And then I was looking it up and online. And then they said, oh, yeah, if you're going to get into property management, you need a real estate license. And I said, okay, well, why not? I can get a real estate license. And so I went and I got a real estate license. And then I said a little more about it. And people came to me with questions and they found out I was studying real estate or just becoming a realtor. I realized a lot of people have questions about that. There's a lot of misinformation and a lack of knowledge, especially in our community, about home ownership and that but it's not attainable. And then I found myself playing that role in providing that information to folks so I can help them either get an investment property or get another home to live. And then, so here I am today.
It seems to me that you're not afraid to explore.
No. I think the first time I really realized that was when I was going through I call it my midlife crisis. I had just turned 40 and I was working for a public accounting firm as an IT auditor, and I was busy. I was traveling every week from city to city, seeing different clients and things of that nature. And it's not a bad job, but it could be very isolating because you're always on the road. So you don't see your friends at home. And then when you're on the road, it sounds exciting, but all you see is the airport, you see the hotel, a bunch of restaurants, and the client. And then you jump back on the plane and you come back home because you're working all the time. And I remember it was like the end of the year, and I couldn't remember where I'd been because I've been to so many places. They were all like a blur. I couldn't remember what I had done because I hadn't really done anything other than work. And I was very sad about that. I was like, wow, that's kind of depressing that a whole year went by and I have no significant memory to tie to this year. So I decided to go to Trinidad for Carnival. Right. So I went to Trinidad for Carnival and I partied. I had a great time. I played MAST. My sister played with me. We danced. I went to a whole bunch of parties. It was great. It was amazing. And then I came back and I resigned because I was like, I could not live this life anymore. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just left my job. And at that point, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And I went back and started thinking, hey, what I enjoy doing right now? And that was teaching. So I created an academy. And for almost 2 years, I was self-employed teaching music. I worked with the various cities, doing programs. I had private students, things of that nature. So I put back on that music degree and I dusted it off and I used it. And so, a lot of people think, John, you're crazy. Why would you leave, the safety and sanctuary of a paycheck, a regular paycheck to do this? But I was so happy. I wake up in the morning early and I get to it and do what I needed to do because you're working for yourself and you feel that fulfillment. And I did that for almost 2 years until I got an offer I almost couldn't refuse and then ended up with another job. But yeah, that's when I realized for the first time that actually it wasn't the first time that I took risks because I think historically also, like I was the first in my family to do a lot of things, risk other kids to leave the island, first of the kids to go to college, stuff like that. I've been a first in many ways. Not that my sisters weren't capable or my brothers, but it was just that I just never saw that I couldn't do it. And because I'd been exposed to seeing things that they haven't seen. And I think that is because I traveled as a child, performing with you, in Europe and things and in the United States. And it kind of opens your eyes about the possibilities. And that's just knowing that those possibilities exist and that you can choose them kind of changed the way that I thought about things.
So those two things, the courage to do, but also having the experiences so that you know that there are other things out there for you and not being afraid to take that tack.
Exactly. Sometimes
Looking
you just have to make yourself uncomfortable. You just have to be uncomfortable for a little while to
Mm.
achieve what you want to achieve. You just have to say, hey, I'm comfortable in this spot and along this trajectory. But if you see somewhere else you want to be to get there, you're going to have to make yourself uncomfortable so that trajectory can change.
You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
So what's next?
I wish I could tell you for certain. I do have particular plans in place. Right now, my focus is on continue to enjoy life until I get to be fully retired, and then I'm sort of putting those structures in place. But for me right now, I'm thinking about building, uh, getting a more into music in a formal way, like taking the ideas that I've had and experiences I've had for the Steelband Academy, and then and building that into something that's more permanent that may exist after I leave this planet. And so I think that is the direction that I'm going to now. Yes, I'm going to continue working and obviously trying to succeed in my career, but along that tangent, which has always existed. But I think in music, that where I want to succeed there also is kind of trying to build something permanent.
When you say something permanent, what are your ideas?
Okay, well, I can get into more specific. So I've been teaching music for a while in South Florida, and I've enjoyed it. I've worked with a local nonprofit steel band that's great, Melo, and they're doing their thing, doing what they want to do. And but I found that what I want to build, I can't build within the vision that they have for their organization. So in order for me to build the vision that I have, I kind of have to step outside of the organization to do it differently, I guess, the way that I want to do it. And so I've been thinking about creating, and I've started working towards it, is a Steelband Academy that's open to anybody who wants to do it. And that was the case, but okay, it's a lot. But yeah, so I want to create a steel band academy for people who want to know how to play the steel pan in South Florida. So that's number one. Number two, I also wanted to assist all the steel bands in South Florida to help develop their players and to create a pool of players that they can pull from so that they can develop their own institutions. So the academy, I think, is going to be like a centralized, catalyst for developing the players here in South Florida, or a pool of players here in South Florida that can serve all the bands. One of the problems that we have in South Florida is that we don't have this big pool, right? And so when we have things like panorama, things of that nature, people fly in players from everywhere, New York and the Caribbean and stuff, which is fine. But at the end of the day, after the season is over and they all go home, then we still left with that very small pool of players, and most of whom are aging, right? And so I see that as a huge problem down here, and I think this is a way that I can assist in addressing that, is kind of creating that pool. And I've kind of started to do. I've been teaching music now for a few years, and I've had kids from as young as 6, and to see how they're developing and growing is amazing. And some of them have already gone on and started playing with other bands or what have you. And I think it's great. It's great to see it. And it's great and I want to see that continue and help all the bands down here by doing that.
Hmm. Now, looking at the world of steel band and the world that the instrument is all, global. But what ideas do you have for the development of the instrument and the players? The academy is one. What other things would you see?
So, I can't really speak to steel bands all over the world because I think in many places the funding and structures have been developed to help bands exist as independent entities. I remember going to the Netherlands and seeing the police come in a trailer all decked out, all the pans, and it was custom designed just to carry pans, and then to see all the players come out with all the pans in cases, and it was like such a spectacle just to see it so well organized and to see that so well established. In talking about bands here that I interact with, I think, creating a structure that helps them become business independent businesses, right? And to the point where they're self-sustaining and don't need constant donations and always struggling to get by. So I my overall goal is to try to help the bands of Florida, find a home, develop programs that help fund them throughout the entire year, have series of events all the year long where they pay themselves. And then, and then gigs are great. You can do that always. It's icing on the cake. But once you have the structures in place, you have the financing set up appropriately and the funding set up appropriately, and you have the business processes set up appropriately, and you have the investments and you have the things like that, then it makes your life so much easier. And so I think my idea really and truly is not a new idea, but I think in helping people implement those ideas for the bands that I interact with, I think would be great. I'm sure the same problem exists other places, but I think I can only do so much at the moment. And I think as I try something, it mightn't work, but I learned something in the experience that I could then say, hey, I tried this, it doesn't work, it doesn't work here, maybe, or I didn't implement it appropriately. But sharing that knowledge will help somebody else the next time if that works out. But I think we have the means to do that.
It sounds very powerful, and sounds like it's something I'd like to see down the road happening, not only in South Florida, but other areas as well. Uh, John, is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share?
I don't know. We've been talking about a lot, and it centers around life in general. But I think people forget that the most precious thing that we have is time. It is every day, every second that goes by, you don't get it back. Other things you can recover from, you go redo something else, but every minute that goes by, you don't move in a particular direction is time wasted, I think in my opinion. And what I mean in the direction is in moving in the direction of where you want to be, right? I really do believe that we create the lives that we want based on every single decision that we make. But if you don't know where you want to be, then you end up where you end up, right? You're not making decisions consistent with a particular direction or particular goal or a particular objective. So when I have a goal in mind, or I'm thinking about where I want to be a year from now or 2 years from now, so it also has to be long term, then I try to make decisions consistent with that, as painful as they might be. Staying in someone's house and sharing in a room, that doesn't make you happy, but there's a long-term goal that you have in mind, but you wouldn't make that decision unless you have that goal. And so I think it's really important for us to know that we create our own realities, and that reality is created by every decision that we make. So we have to know where we want to be so we can be consistent with that, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Being consistent and creating our realities and having those long-term plans. Wow. Gerard, it's been so wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you. Same here.
And this is 2024, and you've started my year off wonderfully. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn. Well, I hope you Happy New Year. And I know you also have goals and plans that you're working on. And so I wish that you consistently move in those directions until you arrive at that destination.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Take care, Gerard.
All right. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Checking In with Dr. B. In addition to our video podcast, we invite you to join our Jumpstart network at keepyourjoyandrise.com. There you'll have access to questions and answers with our guests, virtual meetups, and opportunities to suggest and participate in workshops and spur-of-the-moment talk and jam sessions. We are creating a community of positive thinkers and doers. Come join.